everybody, it's Joanna. It's one of my blogs on our Canadian trip, and giving a shout out to all of those who are on YouTube, on Facebook, who are looking at my vlogs. And this video I am going to dedicate to Matthew Santoro. He is a blogger, a YouTube blogger, one of my favorites, and he's actually from Canada. And since we are in Canada, in his old stomping ground, I am dedicating this to him. I'm going to post this and hopefully I might get a response. So anyway, he's actually done a blog about the differences between America and Canada. And you can see that in his earlier blogs if you want to subscribe to his video. But being that we've been here for about a week or so, or about maybe a few days, we've noticed some differences as well. So for those of you who've never been, there are some differences that we see in Canada that are different from the United States. So these are going to be all across the board, but there's about 7 up here that I can name off of, okay? So the first couple have to do with traffic, okay? Now, in America, of course, you have your standard, red light for stop, green light for yellow, or green light for go, and yellow light, right? But out here in Canada, when you see the green light, it doesn't just stay on, it actually blinks. And that's usually a symbol for commuters to go. So you'll see these blinking green lights and blinking turn lights, for instance, left turn signals or right turn signals. You'll even see blinking yellow lights. Once it becomes solid and it stays, that means that the light's about to change. And it's funny because we don't see this with all the streets, but we see this with many of the streets, particularly those in downtown, in and around Vancouver and whatnot. So those are the first thing that I noticed. In the United States, like I said, it just stays green. It's just a solid green. It doesn't blink or anything, okay? In fact, my husband and I thought that there was something going on, that maybe there was a train coming because we weren't used to seeing blinking green lights. So the second thing that we noticed has to do with the carpool lane. We noticed that the carpool lane is on the right side of the freeway. And usually it's like a bus carpool lane. Whereas if you're in the United States, your carpool lanes are going to be in the median part of the freeway. So anyway, that's what you're going to notice. Okay. The third thing that we've noticed as well, kind of getting away from the traffic, but we've noticed that the streets are cleaner, particularly here in the Vancouver area, especially downtown. In the United States, particularly in your more heavier cities such as San Francisco and New York, you're going to see a lot of dirty streets. You're going to see a lot of litter everywhere and, just trash and whatnot. But in Vancouver, we noticed that a lot of the streets are clean. And in fact, the trash is very highly organized. All of your plastics and your glasses are together. Your garbage is together. Your biodegradables are all together. And virtually every part where there is, disposal sites and whatnot. So the streets are really clean. And I've seen some litter here and there, but it's not as prevalent as you would see here in America. And not only have I seen fewer dirty areas, but I've also seen fewer homeless here in the Vancouver area. Now this is sad, just to even talk about the homeless. There's a prevalence of homeless in the major cities such as New York and San Francisco. I mean, they're everywhere. They're just, there's streets, there's people who are like literally on the streets on every corner, panhandling, or maybe they have carts for, homes and whatnot. And it's really sad. My husband and I try to give whenever we can. But in Vancouver, we didn't notice a lot of this. We didn't notice a lot of homeless. We saw some. We did see a few, but not as many as we would have seen if we were in the United States. Okay. The fifth thing that is different between the United States and here in Canada, particularly here in Vancouver, is there is not as many fast food restaurants. So in the United States, if you drive on every corner, or virtually every block, you're going to see a Jack in the Box or a Taco Bell or a McDonald's or a Wendy's, or you name it. There's going to be a fast food place. Just a fast food place somewhere, which probably is the reason why at least 33% of the Americans are obese. Thank you very much, because there's such a prevalence of fast food. But here in Canada, there's not a lot of fast food. Now they are there, but you don't see them. You don't see 2 or 3 fast food restaurants on every corner. So there's not a lot of them. And what's cool is there's actually a variety of different cuisines, especially in the Vancouver area, since it's such a diverse city. You know, from Turkish cuisines to Japanese to Korean, that type of thing. So that's pretty cool. Also, the last 2 things that I've noticed, and maybe it's not like this in other parts of Canada, but what we've discovered is it's pretty cool from what we've experienced so far. One is there seems to be more patience with people waiting in line. Now, let's say if you go into a Safeway in the United States or into a Walmart, you see this whole huge line and maybe one checkout stand. And eventually, and you're going to get somebody complaining. Somebody's going to be sighing and huffing and puffing, and maybe somebody throw out a cuss word here or there. You know, they might complain that there's not enough help or whatnot. But we've noticed that in Canada, even though there might be lines, there's not a lot of anger, or there's not a lot of impatience. People just kind of wait in line until they get to their turn, and it's actually quite nice. And there's not a lot of vulgarity. And speaking of vulgarity, that is the 7th and final thing that we've noticed that is different. There's not a lot of vulgarity. Now, I've heard a few curse words here in Canada so far, but it's nowhere near the way you would hear it in the United States. If you're walking down the street in San Francisco, which is generally the area where we're in, you might hear people throwing the S word and the H word and throwing out a couple of, Lord's name in vain, saying Jesus Christ and the Lord's name in vain, or, a GD over here or whatnot. And, you might hear a plethora of curse words in just one passing conversation as you walk by the person. But in Canada, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of cussing. It just, people are talking. There might be maybe once or twice, but for the most part, people are quite clean with their words. So anyway, these are just some of the differences that we noticed while we are here in Canada. And of course, for you Canadians that are watching out there, if you're thinking, no, you're probably a little bit off, let me know. You can correct me if you need to. Or if there's any other differences, let me know or hit me up into that. So I will continue my blogs, and stay tuned.